Andrew, welcome mate. Thank you very much for coming in today.
Yeah.
You played 159 games for West Torrens. What are your fondest memories of your time with the club?
Right, lots of those. I mean, first and foremost, playing the first league game. So having grown up supporting West Torrens, a really strong family environment, Grange Primary, going to the games with my grandparents, my grandfather being involved and my father played. It was a dream forever to play my first game at West Torrens. So we did that in 1984. So that was a great thrill there. To go from being involved as a younger guy and coming up through the juniors and then to play league footy was also a great thrill. And the fondest memories on reflection are just, it's a cliche, but it's true, that it's the friendships that you make and the relationships you build with your teammates. Yes, the thrill of training hard to win, but to do that as a team with your best mates and you're young and you're just forging your way in your footy career, mate, having the time of your life.
In 1991, you had the privilege of being an inaugural Adelaide Crows footballer. What was that time like, and what was the transition from like SANFL to all of a sudden hitting the big stage on the AFL? What was the transition like for you?
Yeah, so a couple of, again, exciting and incredibly overwhelming. So you essentially turned up on those first training sessions and there would have been 70 players, all from opposition teams. So we're trying to build each other and win the week before, and then all of a sudden we find ourselves in a room there. And you've got North Adelaide, Norwood, Sturt there, West Torrens, Woodville, and away we went. So that was quite overwhelming, but incredibly exciting to be in the big league. Couple of memories to talk about the difference. We organised a trial game against Essendon that Sheedy had organised, and he was always a bit of a forward thinker and said, I'll have a trial game in about February. And there was there was an oval there, but no catering for supporters and fans, and we had no idea how many would be there. And I remember Cornsey saying there might be, 5 or 10,000 there, and we'll rotate about 28 players. And I remember walking through the tunnels out onto Footy Park, and there was 47,000 people there, and we thought, yeah, this is a little bit different. And we loved our SANFL in the 80s and the mid 80s and got really good crowds, but we knew that this was something quite spectacular really to be involved. Training out of Atco Huts though, as the Crows established their way in the big league, and then some, pretty good early successes. Other memories are having gone from, a team and a player that was picked every week to be on the fringe and having to work really hard for a game. That was memorable. And then my first opportunity again was a great thrill to play at AFL level.
After your time at the Crows, you returned to the SANFL with the newly formed Woodville West Torrens Football Club. What were your first impressions of the newly merged club?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was awkward for me really, to be honest, because Crows were a new team and Woodville West Torrens as a merged team was new. So, I wasn't a first pick mainstay at the Crows, and then you'd come back here and everyone's, forging their way there. That was unusual to be in a merged team. So it was kind of like in limbo for a while, and Weed and I were in a bit the same position where he didn't play every week. He played a lot more than I did at the Crows. So it was, again, unusual and a bit unfamiliar, but I think the great thing about coming back here is it did feel like home and we were having success. So having come from West Torrens, and, it would have been a really tough decision for those executives and board members, Bill and Rex Sellers, to make that call, massive call after 100 years to merge the two clubs. And we really needed to get success early. So you had a pool of a lot of great players from both sides that came together, and the enjoyable thing was winning week in, week out, and then being able to play my part, even though I wasn't training here I wasn't training here during the week, and you rock up on a Saturday. Barmy, a new coach, Bruce Winner for the reserve. So again, having grown up with West Torrens, it was a period of unfamiliarity, really. But again, very enjoyable, new guys, new teammates, and some on-field success, which was great.
In 1993, you win the SANFL Premiership as the Woodville West Torrens Football Club.
Gives it off to Robert, and there's the siren to end the 1993 grand final. And the Eagles have dominated the day. They go out winners by 73 points.
Still get the sweaty palms talking about that, to be
Talk
honest.
me through it.
Oh,
first premiership.
mate, dream, literal. You know, as a kid, that all he ever wanted to do was play footy and play for West Torrens. To win a flag is it was off the charts. I mean, we knew we had a good side. Great players when you look back on that team of how good they were, and many of them went on to play AFL after that, but just the day was just incredible.
As far as your career goes, Andrew, you've had your time with
I've been waiting for one of these for a long time, and I'm going to enjoy it tonight. Don't worry about that.
And coming back here after that game and seeing supporters that you'd seen as a kid for, you know, I guess I was mid to late 20s when we won that. That you'd known for all that time, and the joy on their faces was just unbelievable. So, you know, the party rocked on and rolled on, and it was really about. It was great to be a player and always be very, very proud of that involvement. The great thrill was for the family, friends, and fans that had been through a lot for both teams. To get the ultimate in the end was just unbelievable, yeah.
You represented South Australia 6 times between 1988 and 1994, including being the captain in the 1994 team. What's the feeling when you pull on that state Guernsey?
Again, it's goosebump stuff. It really is. As I said before, my dream was to play a league game for West Torrens. That was it as I was growing up. State footy, I don't know what that was, but that was another level again in terms of where I could get to. I played the junior footy and the state representatives teams, and that was always a great thrill to be picked in that. But yeah, again, my first state game at Footy Park in '88, Bicentenary Carnival it was. Mate, Kernahan, McIntosh, Michael Aish, Craig Bradley. For me to be playing in that team and associated with those great, iconic players of the SANFL, again, was just awesome stuff. And you know, you walk out of the race and you run on top of the ground, literally, until you get belted and you got to chase and realise that this is a pretty good standard.
So in your football career, you know, obviously state football's taken a bit of a turn now with the AFL and things like that, but back in the day, you know, 1988 through to 1994, state football was massive.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you compare that with your AFL career?
Look, they're all comparable, you know, and I will go back and say to play league footy in the mid-80s for West Torrens will always be my ultimate thrill and dream, and then to play in that flag. So that it's hard to compare because they're all really good or amazing, really. But state footy was a big deal, and I guess it was something to strive for during the year, because you know there'd be 2 state games a year. So as a player, you want to play well. We had pride in our performance. You want to win. You want to contribute. Yes, but you knew that if you're a chance to be in good, consistent form, that you might get a chance to be selected for South Australia. And again, I mean that was the ultimate highest level at that stage. Before we had any representative clubs from South Australia, you had a lot of guys moving over, but again, that was awesome stuff. I felt very honoured and privileged to pull on the state Guernsey at that level.
Obviously, in 1990, Woodville and West Torrens decided that it was time to merge for many reasons. As a player, what was the emotions around the initial discussions, and then your observations of the supporter base, the membership base, as the merger was occurring?
Sure. Look, I still remember vividly the meeting that was called upstairs at Thebarton Oval, and that would have been, so it was 91, that would have been, call it in 1990 at some stage, where it was, look, it wasn't just flagged with the players that this might happen and this could be potentially where we're heading. It was almost like, this is a done deal and here's why. So the initial thing I remember is complete shock. There will be no more West Torrens Football Club. It was really quite hard to fathom. And then I remember, it was Rex Sellers that led the way, explaining the why. And, when you hear shock news and then what follows after, you kind of zone out a little bit. But, they went to great lengths to help us understand why that was the case. But I've got to say, my initial reaction was one of great shock and great sadness, really, that this footy club had to fold for financial reasons. And I'm sure the same was when Bill was explaining that to the players and the members at the Woodville Football Club. So I had a great understanding, a great affinity, and a great love for the SANFL. We were the first ones. No other clubs had ever folded before and then merged. So they were the initial feelings. I also, felt for the supporters, because they're dyed-in-the-wool West Torrens people that I'd known all my life. Likewise, full understanding of what would have been happening in Woodville. Felt for them as well. Unusually, I went down to the Crows sort of in that pre-season, so didn't really get a sense of how it all worked with the players coming together. But gradually we understood that this had to happen. It wasn't really a choice because of financial reasons. The club wasn't able to be viable going forward. So, yeah, disappointing. But again, once we got into playing footy, that's all you ever really want to do is play and represent and do that for all the reasons that we do. And having that on-field success then started to validate the reasons. So as a player, you play and you represented your club, and it was a new club, right? For the fans, lots of them, there would have been a sentiment that would have been really tricky to swallow forever. And David, it would still be for some, that, despite the great lengths that all the people that have been responsible for the new Eagles have gone to honour and respect the past of both clubs. And a lot of the players do a lot of work, a lot of the past players do a lot of work to make sure that there's that great connection in one club. Here we sit now, 30 odd years later, and that validation is real because success and everything that everyone's doing to make the Eagles a successful club. But that would have been a lot of heartache and tears for a lot of people to accept that.
The Woodville West Torrens Footy Club has obviously built a strong identity since the merger, with 5 premierships in just over 30 years. What do you think has made the club successful in that area?
I think success breeds success. So having, Port Adelaide won a lot, Sturt won a lot, all of that. So I think we have a real thirst for it, and that's across the whole club, from the top down and the bottom up, wherever you fit. We're all equal, but it has to be a one club mentality. I think we've been able to recruit and retain some really great players, either locally born and bred or recruited. So I've always felt going into every season that we've had a really good team, which gives you a chance. And then you've got to have, good coaching, good support, good administration, good board for it being tough, and you've got to invest. And I think we've invested in our past and we've invested in the future. And that's, footy programs, making this feel like a home for everybody, really good coaching, getting AFL intelligence into it at the highest level, and essentially a group of players that know how to win and want to win and have a thirst for winning at that level every week. That's how I describe it.
You spent 16 years on the Adelaide Crow's board when you finished up in football. What drove you to want to go into the administration component of football?
Again, as a lot of things in life that happened a little bit by chance, to be honest. You always think, I've played for 16 plus years, what am I going to do after? It's a massive void to fill. Nothing won't satisfy, right? So how do you go from there? And I thought about coaching, and I thought about other things, and it was a chance phone call from Bill Sanders, who we all know well, and there was a vacancy available at the board, and he said, look, and I'd done a bit of work with Bill in a sort of professional sense, work-wise, business-wise, in terms of helping players in what I did, which was financial services. So we had a good relationship, plus there was a Woodville Eagles connection there. He said, look, there's a casual vacancy on the board. Would you consider being part of that for 12 months and see what happens? 16 years later, I stayed there. And again, great privilege, great honour, to be honest, to be involved at the elite level for the Crows. You're making tough decisions all the time, but being part of that is another part of being a team, and that's what footy's about. So administration wasn't my first thought, but I was involved in the footy side of it, so list management as footy director. So again, lots of learning, great way to contribute, and they're a really, really great footy club. So I was privileged to be involved, and they couldn't get rid of me, so I stayed there for 16 years.
And that has
a
you
lot
as
of fun.
that has you as the longest serving board member for the Adelaide Football Club.
Yeah, I'm proud of that, because I think if you're anywhere and you're no good, and you know what footy clubs are like, they'll get rid of you, and rightly they should, whatever position you're in. So you have to be part of the team, you have to add value, you have to contribute, and you have to be boots and all with everything and fully invested, and that's what I was throughout my whole career. Whether that was playing or admin or supporting where I can, I've always given it my all.
The SANFL has changed a lot over the years. What do you see as its biggest challenges moving forward?
Yeah, I think that's gone in phases. You're absolutely right. From when I started mid-80s, for it being everything and no AFL influence. I mean, we'd watch the winners on Channel 2 for half an hour. That's all we got. So they had a monopoly on football in South Australia. So you bring in 2 AFL clubs, and then we've all had to work with all of those challenging priorities for it to be successful. But yes, it's got challenges, but and we would get that in crowd numbers and viability and financials and competition and Crows and Port having reserves teams essentially in this competition. They're all complexities, as you know. But I think the positive thing about it is you've actually got a unique product that, a lot of my mates and people that I know love going to the SANFL, even as a trade-off for going to the AFL, because it's a real connection with the fans. It's a closeness with it. They love the style of footy. The coaches are instructing and the players are executing. They actually love that, and they love the intimacy and familiarity with South Australian Grands, fans and footy. So whilst yes, they are challenges, and to your question, what are they? I would say financial. They would having the fans they'd be broadcasting, where you can sit at home on the couch and watch 20 games of footy on a weekend. So what's going to get my backside off the couch and get me to Woodville Oval or Elizabeth or Norwood? What is going to do that? And that's where you need to have that attraction and uniqueness for people to be able to make that decision, because there's lots of choices.
Looking back on your footy journey, playing to boardroom to leadership roles that you've held, what are you most proud of? When you walk away from the game, what is it that you reflect on and go, yep, that was me?
Premierships, playing state footy, they are a tick, but they're an individual thing. It is again, it comes back to the people. Playing with those guys, and the unique thing about footy is that you just turn up to training every week and you're with all your mates. So So I am proud of still maintaining really good friendships with a handful of guys, and then beyond that I'd played with over the journey. That's what I'm most proud of. And then I suppose I'm proud of being a consistent performer, nowhere near the greatest, but I knew that every time I put the boots on, whoever I represented, Torrens, the Eagles, Crows or State, that I gave it my all every time. And that's all you can ever ask of anyone, really.
What would you like to say to the past West Torrens supporters, the past Woodville supporters, and the current Eagles supporters? What would you like to say to them?
Get around the club, support the club. You're doing great things to invest. There are a lot of passionate people there from West Torrens, from Woodville, and now the Eagles as one. Support the club in whatever in whichever way you can, and enjoy the ride. That's what footy's about. It's sport, it's people, it's passion, it's winning, and it's being involved. So I just implore them all to get around the Eagles and enjoy the ride.
Andrew, thank you very much for taking the time to sit down with us,
mate.
Greatly appreciated.
Yeah, pleasure, enjoyed it. Good on
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Dave.